Sure, Buffet, to welcome back again to Analyses of Sorts. Uh, I've got another topic for you guys. Interesting topic. It's an interview that happened recently, and I think it's important for us to have this discussion so that we are all on the same page regarding tactic Yamakua, plan Yamakua, or Nahantle Hantle. Why are they still here in South Africa? And just in Africa in general. And it's not just agenda. They are receiving assistance even from the indigenous people of the land. So black people, those are the house Negroes, the sellout Negroes that are there helping to maintain the status quo. So, I want group ya bacha that are politically, economically, and socially aware. Hence why I can enter this channel, to make sure that I can empower you guys with the kind of knowledge and information to at least make you curious enough to read beyond your curriculum koskolo. Because what you're learning in school, unfortunately, that curriculum is designed to brainwash you and to keep you subject to the neo-colonialist system that we currently have, not just in South Africa, but in Africa as a whole. The educational system is not designed to free you and liberate you and put you in position to take control of your country and your cultures and your sovereignty. No, it's there to keep you subjects of neo-colonialism, to ensure that the principles enshrined in your country through the colonial years are preserved and protected. So everywhere where you look in Africa, where there's been a colonizer, when they leave people in charge, oftentimes people that have the same skin color as the indigenous people. In other words, black people. Okay, they don't just leave you in charge of everything that they feel they are entitled to, because from their perspective, they won all of this through warfare. So they're not going to give it up to you just because you're crying, yeah, we're poor, we're unemployed. They don't care about you. They want to keep you servants. They want to keep you subjects. And the purpose of neocolonialism, and why it's called neocolonialism, is that it's there to preserve the results of colonialism, right? And I want to read a few definitions for you just to make sure exactly on when we talk about neocolonialism. So neocolonialism is the use of economic, political, cultural, or other pressure to control or influence other countries, especially former dependencies. Former dependencies, for example, South Africa to the British or to the Dutch. All right, that's what we are. We are a colony. We were once taken over and dominated and subjugated. And when apartheid ended and sort of the colonial era ended, the colonizer didn't just leave. No, they left and they planted or implanted a system and people to run that system, to preserve and protect colonialism. Because you must understand something. White people are not regretful about what happened in the past. In fact, they're very happy because it's allowed them to be at the top of the food chain in today's world, in the modern world. So let's look at this definition again. It is the use of economic, political, and cultural, right, and other pressures to control or influence other countries. So in other words, they are running the country remotely. The actual elites, the ruling class, the white capital, does not have to physically be there, but they have representatives in your country that represent their interests, right? And they can use multiple ways of influencing a country or putting pressure on a country and affecting their policy. For example, why is it so difficult for us in South Africa to get what we want when we have a black government and we've had a black government for 30 years? Why is it so difficult for us to see the changes that we were expecting and that we were promised when Mandela was released from prison and the talks began? And we thought that we had actually won through a peaceful revolution, but there's no such thing. What we're seeing in Burkina Faso right now is the first time we're really seeing an extended period where a revolution has been staged, and the coup d'etat, the people that staged the coup d'etat, are running a country in an effective way that the people are happy with because it is for the benefit of the citizens of that country. What Ibrahim Traore is doing is truly revolutionary and amazing because he has cut ties with the colonial master. And he's saying we're going to do it on our own, no matter how difficult it is, irrespective of the death threats, irrespective of the threats of sanctions. Remember, these are just threats because they want to put pressure on you to remain servants, to remain slaves under their colonial system that they've implanted in your society to live by. And then they put leaders over you that even look like you, but that propagates and that are proponents of the same colonial regime that, again, I keep telling you, has been rebranded. Apartheid has been rebranded. Slavery has been rebranded. We call it employment now. We call it having a job. But ultimately, who's still at the top of the totem pole calling the shots? The same colonial master. Even if it might not necessarily, it's different generations of white people that are pushing the exact same agenda, guys. Let's read another definition when we talk about neocolonialism. Neocolonialism is the control of less developed countries by developed countries through indirect means, right? The term neocolonialism was first used after World War II to refer to the continuing dependence of former colonies on foreign countries. Okay, so the dependence on the former colonizer, right? The dependence of colonies on the former colonizer. That's essentially what it's about. So even if they declare that apartheid is finished, if you look at the state of African countries, or even if they declare colonialism is finished, look at the state of African countries. Why can't they move forward? Why can't they develop? Why does it take so long to pass legislation that is beneficial for the people? Because the rich elites, the white elites that obtained their wealth and riches through colonization, through colonialism, are protecting these investments. They still have access to your mines. They still have access to your ports. They still have access to trade. They have access to your currencies, to your economies, and they manipulate these factors, right? They have access to your media, to your politicians, to your economics. They pull strings, right, through proxy governments. They are running things behind the scenes to influence the runnings of these countries so that you are never fully liberated. Let's make no mistakes about what is going on right now in South Africa. What we have in groups like the DA is, and Helen Zille is doing nothing except protecting white investment, protecting white capital. That is what she's been planted. She receives funding. Her and her group receive funding for this very cause, for this very reason. They are here to protect neocolonialism in the country, right? The fruit of colonization. That's what they're here to do. So every time you listen to Helen Zille speaking and other white people, other white groups that are proponents of the so-called free market capital, what they're talking about is protecting foreign investors, foreign investment, meaning the rich people who actually run your country from outside. That's what foreign investors are. That's what foreign investment is. When they talk about we don't want to upset our investors and foreign markets, and all they're saying is the people that are actually running the show, we want to do everything we can to keep them in the game, to keep them active in our country, even if they're overseas. That's all it means, guys. These people don't care. Helen Zille does not care about black people. She does not care about unemployment. Trust me, unemployment actually serves to benefit them because what it allows for them to do is continue to propagate and preach to the people that we need to do everything we can to keep foreign investors happy because they are the solution to unemployment. And unfortunately, black people are falling for this. They're falling for this game, this bit where you're told that if we allow foreign investors to have more influence in your country, in our country, it will create jobs, basically rendering the black population to nothing more than slave labor for big white corporations. That is colonialism, but just in a new era. It's the same concept. It's the same idea as slavery and colonialism. The rich white ruling elites run the show, and black people are subjugated and subjected to being nothing more than the labor. If you look at how white countries industrialized, it was through slave labor. The idea remains the same today. So when you see black people that are proponents of the DA and that support white capital coming into the country, and they don't actually like, it's incredible to me that learned black people don't understand these very simple fundamental concepts, that your country will never be free. You will never be fully sovereign as long as investors have their tentacles in your economy, in your politics, in your education, in your media, in your country. You are living in a slave state that is run remotely, and you have a puppet government that has been installed by white capital to do their bidding for them. Because if you say we've abolished slavery and we've abolished apartheid, it means the slave master, we cannot see a white man over you anymore. So they put a black man there to make it acceptable to do the exact same thing. And that's currently what we're facing. And and now white capital and white people like the DA are now swiftly trying to find a way to usurp authority, to enter into the chat. We're hearing talks of presidency now. Helen Zille for president, John Steenhuisen for president. It's absurd. And black people are falling for it. Now, for me, I fully understand how black people were able to be colonized, because we're naive. We're a very naive race of people, incredibly naive. We love to drink the Kool-Aid from a white man. If a white man stirs it up well enough for us, we all want to jump ship. We all want to be a part of it. In fact, we will even support them and help them in destroying our own communities and our own people. Hence why my last video was about house Negroes, the new house Negroes that are given fancy titles by white capital. They give you a fancy job title, make you feel important, give you a degree, give you PhDs and certificates, and give you status in the world, which is ultimately what a lot of black people are really after. They don't care about black people. They don't care about the liberation of their race and securing the future of black people for years to come. They don't care about that. All they care about is making sure that they've got food on their plate. It doesn't matter how it's obtained. Doesn't matter that it's crumbs that are falling from the master's table. They will eat that happily, just as long as they can be close to the master, because that's where they feel most protected. The field Negro is trying to stand up against these things because we understand what's actually going on. The house Negro also understands what's going on, but he wants us to congratulate him for being a sellout. And then when we don't congratulate him, he says, it's because you guys are jealous of my success. We're not jealous of your success, because we can obtain the same thing. It's very easy to be a sellout, but we don't want to be proponents and supporters of white capital. We're trying to fight for our sovereignty so that we can be independent, have our own land, have our own everything. Look at what Burkina Faso is doing right now. Now they've got their own cryptocurrency that is based on the gold that they've mined, and they've got the rights to their own mines. They own their own country. They are a truly sovereign African nation that does not allow the West to meddle in their affairs. That is the template. That's what we're trying to do all over Africa, and what we should be fighting for in South Africa. Not this multiracialism and coming together. No, white people do not want to come together. They want to preserve and protect the status quo. They want to keep things the way they are, where they are sitting happily at the top, controlling the land, the wealth, the resources, the economy, and causing political disruption, and allowing the terrible things that are going on in the country to be exacerbated because they want to present themselves as the solution. There's no other hope for black people except a white person coming in with foreign investments. That's what they're trying to say. They're trying to say we are incapable of helping ourselves. We are incapable of doing anything by ourselves and being sovereign and being independent. And white people do not want to be subjected to black leadership because they don't believe in black leadership. They don't believe black people are competent enough to make decisions on their behalf. They don't want black leadership. They don't believe that we're competent enough to do anything. Hence why they keep presenting the solution as white investors coming in, big corporation coming in, saving the day. But this template, we've seen it around the world. These so-called big corporations and big companies that come into your country, that come into your land, they are there with an ulterior motive. They might package it as a McDonald's franchise or Nike. But what you're not seeing is that the corporation is a front. Because once you allow the company, right, to sell or to ply their trade in your country, then that comes with advertisements. And they have a budget that is so big that local businesses cannot compete with these international conglomerates. So when they come into your country, they come to dominate and to basically form oligopolies and monopolies in your country. The advertising propaganda begins to be pushed in your country, which begins to sort of acclimate you or open you up to Western ideals. The damage comes through the media, it comes through the advertisements, it comes through the culture and the lifestyle that they're pushing and propagating. They sell you a lifestyle, even though the company is for food or for clothing or for shoes. But what they're selling you is a way of life. What they're selling you is a culture. What they're selling you are ideologies. Hence why, if you've ever sat in a briefing for these advertising agencies when they're coming up with the idea, they're given very specific objectives in terms of what the advertisement or what the whatever it is that they're making is supposed to achieve, and it's all about ideologies. They are pushing ideologies. They're not trying to sell food. And when they is not trying to sell McDonald's burgers, dude, that's not what this thing is about. This thing is about selling you a lifestyle. And if you look at South Africa today, we've become incredibly Americanized and Britishified, if you want to. We're incredibly influenced by America and Britain. Even Black people today, they're twanging. Their accents have now become American accents or British accents. They're using American and British slang. Total cultural identity crisis. A total identity crisis. Why? Because of the Western influence in their nation. So when you see these big companies coming into your country, they're not there to sell food or sell shoes. They're there to sell lifestyle and ideology and to move you away from your cultures, to separate you from the things that ground you, the things that give you a purpose to live, the things that give you a purpose to fight for what is yours and what you believe in and your deep convictions because you understand your culture and your history. As long as you don't understand your culture, you don't understand your history. If you don't understand your own culture, you don't understand your own history. And if you don't understand your own history, you won't know what to fight for. You will not know what the battle for your generation is. Why? Because you don't understand what the previous generation fought for. This thing is about continuity. It's a relay. When the baton is passed on to you, you are supposed to now run the race and achieve even more greater things than what the previous generation achieved. But if you don't understand the wins and the failures of the previous generation, you will not know what to fine tune. And your generation essentially will not have a vision. That's what we're experiencing right now in South Africa. South African Black youth does not have a vision. They don't know whether they're coming or going. Right now, the thing that's championing Black culture is Amapiano, is literally music and TikTok dances. Nothing to do with culture, nothing to do with history, even though we are one of the biggest geopolitical players in the world right now. But our youth doesn't care about these things. And the more they don't care about them, the more they allow the youth, the white youth of South Africa and foreign countries to continue to be beneficiaries of neocolonialism right under their noses. White people will continue to live a privileged life in your country while you watch them buying properties, buying land, doing what they want in your country. Because make no mistake about it, white people are not indigenous to South Africa. They are settlers. They are foreigners. They are foreigners. No matter how much they say that they're indigenous or that they've been in South Africa multiple generations, it doesn't matter. If you go to Britain right now and you see a Black man, or anywhere in Europe and you see a Black person, they are referred to as African. Even if they say, oh, this person is British, they will always tell you about the heritage of where this person comes from, because you are not fully British. You are not indigenous. No matter how long you've been there, they will never accept you as an indigenous person. You will always have that African tag on you, because they always relate you back to your ancestry, where you actually come from. But here in South Africa, we are told we must accept white people as indigenous people. Imagine the arrogance of whites. So in Europe, white people can dictate that, no, you guys are not fully British or you're not fully European. You're Africans that are living in, even if you've been there multiple generations, they won't accept you. And then white people also come as settlers and then want us and want to dictate to us that we must accept them as indigenous people. The absurdity and the arrogance and the narcissism to try to make dictates of how we should see you when you don't want to see us in the same light is nonsense. We will not accept it. White people are foreigners. They are settlers here in South Africa. They are not indigenous to this land. It doesn't matter how many years they've been here for. And they are more than welcome to go back home, because nobody's forcing them to stay in South Africa if they're unhappy with the way things are. But they will never leave. Why? Because the status quo is being protected. And as long as the status quo is being protected, neocolonialism will continue to thrive in this country. So you young Black South Africans, wake up and understand these things. This is a life and death situation. It's a life or death situation. If you don't understand these things, we will have another generation we've had 30 years post 94 of nonsense happening in the country. And we accepted it because we were all under the spell. We were all drinking the Kool-Aid. We were drunk with this idea of a rainbow nation and unifying the races and all this nonsense that we know is BS. We were drunk with these ideals. 30 years later, people are starting to wake up and realize that it was all a lie just to protect neocolonialism. And this historically is what happens when your colonizer leaves. He implants, he puts his own government, puts his own leaders, even right down to your chiefs. I'm telling you, your cultural chiefs themselves are compromised. They have been bought and paid for. They have been planted there to continue to serve the agenda of keeping the people ignorant of the truth. And watch this space. Look what's happening now with podcasters coming under fire. Mike G, with what he said to me, they're going to find a way to legislate podcasts, to take away the freedom you have to say what you want to say. Watch this space. Why? Because that is the global agenda of the new world order. Censorship, 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 censorship. Very soon you will not be able to say anything that is contrary to the status quo. So while we still have the opportunity right now, we must fight for the sovereignty of our own country. Do not go along with this globalist agenda. It does not benefit you. It keeps you as part of the working class. It keeps you as part of the slave labor, which is exactly what the point of slavery was about, to marginalize Black people. I'm going to continue reading some definitions for you guys. Neocolonialism. What do we mean when we say neocolonialism? The term neocolonialism generally represents the actions and effects of certain remnant features and agents of the colonial era in a given society. Post-colonial studies have shown extensively that despite achieving independence, the influences of colonialism and its agents are still very much present in the lives of most former colonies. Practically every aspect of the ex-colonized society still harbors colonial influences. These influences, their agents and effects, constitute the subject matter of neocolonialism. I'm trying to help you understand South Africa. I'm trying to help you understand Africa. I'm trying to help you understand why what Ibrahim Traore is doing with Burkina Faso is so significant. Because he has cut ties with the West. Not cut ties in the sense of he doesn't want to invest with certain people. No, he's saying you will not control our resources and our people and our politics and our money and our banks. You will not hold us hostage in our own country. We will make our own dictates. We will declare our own terms and our own conditions and how and what relationships we want to have with other people. The thing that happened with Donald Trump threatening South Africa really exposed how much influence they truly have. And it usually comes in the form, like we said, it's a plethora of different ways that they exert this influence on you. And one of them is foreign aid. They bring foreign aid to your country. Therefore, they feel entitled to make dictates of who you can have relationships with and what policies you're allowed to pass in your country. Why? Because they feel like because they're giving you money. Meanwhile, they forget that their currencies are where they are today because they are beneficiaries of looting our minerals. And Ramaphosa is an agent of neocolonialism. He has been planted there. He's signing deals that are moving us further and further away from sovereignty and making us more and more dependent on white capital. Signing our lives away. Europe is moving back to coal, but Ramaphosa is busy signing deals to say, we want to move away from coal, even though coal is something that we have in abundance that can power the entire country. And we know how to burn coal in a clean way. All these countries that we're talking about, oh, we want to go green and we want to, what do they call the renewable energy route? We want to go that route. Now they're saying this thing doesn't work. It's not sustainable. We need to go back to coal. But here's Ramaphosa signing away the country, moving us away from the thing that we have in abundance. Why? Because the West is declaring that that's what we should do, since they don't want to see us get ahead of them. So when you have puppet governments like what we have with the ANC, the country is in trouble. And guys, I'm telling you, what Ibrahim Traore did, he showed us that it takes you staging a coup d'etat, which means you need to have a military-minded generation. You cannot do it through fighting in the political arena. You can't do it there. You won't win. To defeat imperialism once and for all, you have to overthrow the government and the status quo. You have to do it that way. There's no other way. That's the true revolution. It has to be violent. I'm telling you guys the truth. Burkina Faso has given us the template. All Africans should be following that template right now. And if your government is not fighting and doing what Ibrahim Traore did, it means that they have been planted there. They are a puppet government, and they're there to protect the interests of your colonizer. I hope you're hearing me. Let's continue reading more definitions. And go Helen Zille, Neocolonialism, the economic and political policies by which a great power indirectly maintains or extends its influence over other areas or people. Right? Colonialism creates a power dynamic where the colonizer holds all the power and the colonized are reduced to objects of exploitation. Neocolonialism maintains the same oppressive system, but operates under the guise of economic and cultural dominance. Black culture has been completely overtaken with the globalist agenda, with this globalist culture. And it comes very, very innocently. It comes through clothing brands. It comes through car brands. It comes through alcohol brands. And guess who the ambassadors of all of these luxury items are? Your celebrities. Hence why celebrities and athletes. Hence why celebrities and athletes are propped up so highly in society. Your celebrities and athletes are the ones that make these things cool. They make neo-colonialism cool. They are the marketing, the faces behind the marketing. They're the ones that are pushing these things as a lifestyle and making you accept them. Meanwhile, these people are being given money to sell out their countries. Hence why I keep telling you, stop following celebrities. If you have a social media, stop listening to what these people say. Stop following them. Stop going to their concerts. Stop buying what they buy. What they buy is white foreign brands, white foreign cars. We will never create our own textile industry, clothing industry, food industries, our own banks, our own everything, as long as we are promoting the white man's sectors. We must control our own sectors. We must control the means of production in our own country for us to be truly sovereign. And if we don't, that means we're still under colonization. It's just that it's neo-colonialism now because they're doing it from afar. The master does not have to be in the country, but he's got puppets like Helen Zille, like Ramaphosa, running the show, controlling the agenda, making sure people continue to stay blind, stupid, and dumb, and that they don't question anything that's going on. Even your media, right? Traditional media is there to lie to you and to maintain the status quo. So I've read some definitions. I hope you have a clearer understanding of what we mean by neocolonialism and why South Africa is not improving and things are not changing in the country, even though we are, quote unquote, we have freedom and democracy. By the way, do you know democracy is the thing that your colonizer implants in your society to create bureaucratic structures that make it impossible to actually execute any real change? What the so-called democracy and freedom is there to bureaucratically put so much red tape around your legislation, around your economy, around the means of production, to make it impossible to challenge the status quo, to make it impossible to change anything, because it has to go through so many bureaucratic processes for anything to be passed and executed so that there can actually be change. Whereas if you look at Traore wakes up in the morning, makes decrees, and things happen. Things shake immediately. There's no bureaucratic process of taking it through 20 different channels, where eventually it will be vetoed after 3 or 4 years of trying to pass this thing or trying to make this change or amendment. It will eventually and inevitably be vetoed. Hence why, if you watch and listen closely to how white South Africans speak, they're always talking about doing things through the system, taking it to the courts, doing it in a democratic way. Why? Because they understand that the system is rigged. The system is there to protect neocolonialism. Guys, please wake up and understand this. The reason why people love the law is because the law protects them. The reason why people love to quote the Constitution is because the South African Constitution protects the status quo. The South African Constitution does not change anything for Black people's lives. It doesn't. It's there to protect neocolonialism. It's been written vaguely in a nondescript way to allow for neocolonialism to happen. And I told you, even the foreigners, foreign nationals that are coming in, taking over the job market is because white people are bringing them in. White people are hiring them to replace the black population. This is neocolonialism 101. Read your history. Why are the Aborigines endangered today in Australia? Think about the Native Americans in America. They will tell you Columbus discovered America. Very soon, textbooks are going to start saying Van Riebeeck discovered South Africa. That's what they do. This is the MO. They erase your history and then erase your culture and then wipe out the people systematically, unless you stage a revolution to fight back against the status quo. If you don't do that, your people are toast. People are dying daily. Black people, there's a black genocide in South Africa right now. You want to talk about genocides? There's a black genocide. Black South Africans are being replaced. Black South Africans are being killed systematically to replace them, to get rid of them, to bring Zimbabweans and Nigerians in to be the new workforce. And the stupidity of other African countries not recognizing this means that they come to South Africa because they are white people here and they say that they're looking for opportunities. What you're looking for is an opportunity to be exploited, you dummy. Even when you go to Britain and you go to America, you say, I'm seeking greener pastures. It's stupid. You should be staying home, fighting to help change things in your country. Stage a revolution, stage a coup d'etat, do something. There's no revolution without bloodshed, but you guys are too cowardly to fight. You want to go to countries that have white people seeking, basically begging to be slaves. It's incredible. You don't want sovereignty. You don't want the responsibility of running things with your own, you're running your own affairs. You want to be subjected to white rulership. You want to be slaves because it's easier to be told what to do, even though it takes away your dignity. The stupidity of these people running away from their African countries, running away from Nigeria, running away from Zimbabwe to seek greener pastures because there are white people that live in those areas. And then you go and you work for the white man and you're happy to be a house Negro instead of going back home to solve your own problems. Again, they're happy to be instruments within this neo-colonialist structure just for their own survival because they don't have no pride in their culture. Why don't they have pride in their culture? Because the media has poisoned them. The educational system has poisoned them to believe that the globalist agenda is what is the right way, to believe that white culture is superior to black culture. That's what's happened. So when you see these people running away from their country, coming to South Africa, and white South Africans are hiring them as cheap labor, imagine these black foreigners are happy to be hired here as cheap labor to replace black South Africans who are actually fighting for something that will be beneficial for all Africans. We're fighting for our land, our economy, our pride, our dignity, to show other African colonies that this is what you should be doing. Stop running away from your country. You're playing right into your oppressors' hands. They want you to follow them in these white countries and to be marginalized and used as slave labor because now it justifies colonialism to say, you see, they're unable to lead themselves. Look at them running to us, running back to us so that we can use them as cheap labor, just like we were doing during the days of slavery. It's counterproductive. It's stupid. And I told you, black people are incredibly gullible. They're incredibly gullible. So imagine Nigerians and Zimbabweans will come to South Africa and pick a fight with black South Africans for jobs that should be and opportunities that should be going to black South Africans. But again, black South Africans, we're not fighting for just employment and jobs. We're trying to control the sectors. That's really our main agenda. This thing of employment is a short-sighted thing. There's a bigger problem here is that we don't control the sectors. That's why there's unemployment. You have to go to the root of the problem because the unemployment is being created by the puppet government. The poverty is being created by the puppet government. Why? Because they want to show the failures of black leadership, to allow the people to accept a white president and white rulership to come back into power. Basically, they're systematically bringing apartheid back, this time with the support of stupid black South Africans or so-called clever black South Africans that are not clever at all. They're really, really idiotic. Baylor University, they've got PhDs, they've got masters, they've studied, but they're stupid. They don't understand what's going on, and they don't understand how white people are using them as house Negroes. Just because a white person gave you a certificate and gave you a position, now you feel like you're important within their white system. But you don't control the means of production, you as a black person, and you're happy with that. You're just happy to be the slave labor. For how long will black South Africans be happy with employment and slave labor in their own land, when you should be controlling your own minerals and making dictates as to how things go in your own country and how things run? You are happy to eat the crumbs from the master's table instead of going for the big cake. The big prize is ownership. It's not employment. So white people are going to keep telling you, like the DA and Helen Zille, that we need employment, and the way to get employment is by foreign investors coming into the country, like Starlink, to come and steal our data. It's a security breach to allow companies like that into your country. Even having Apple devices or any of these foreign devices, these foreign technologies that are used as tracking devices. We know exactly what the CIA and FBI's agenda is, which is to keep tabs on everyone. Our banks, all of these things are security breaches to Black culture. We should not be supporting these things. We should have our own Black bank. We should have our own Black apps through which we can communicate to keep everything we're doing top secret. Not just selling our data to foreigners that are foreign investors that are coming in to try to create employment, which means to create slaves. Stop falling for this bait. Stop falling for the employment trap. Helen Zille and DA is going to keep preaching economic growth, foreign investors, keeping foreign investors happy, keeping the markets happy, just like Rob Herzog. White people sing the same, they sing from the same hymn book. Let's keep the foreign investors happy. Let's keep white capital happy. Let's keep foreign investors coming into the country to continue neocolonialism. That's the solution. So the solution is to subjugate Black people to be slaves, to keep them working for white companies, to keep them indoctrinated by the white educational system as opposed to changing it. Why hasn't the agency changed the curriculum? Why haven't they changed the educational structures in South Africa? Things are getting worse. They're dropping the pass rate to 30% to make sure to keep South Africans stupid, to keep them aiming low, so that they never become smart enough to actually question this government and stage a true revolution. Guys, wake up, man. Wake up, Black South Africans. Stop allowing white people to play you like dummies. They're playing chess with you. They're using you as pawns, and you don't see it. You clever Blacks that are part of the DA being used as pawns. You know this organization is racist, but I'm sure they're paying you very well or whatever. You're getting some kind of status from being around white people because you yourself as a Black person have low self-esteem. It's the same reason Black people date outside their race. Low self-esteem. You don't believe that your race is better or competent enough. You don't feel like your race is deserving of you. When you're too good for your race. So the only race that qualifies is what? The white race, the colored race, the Indian race. Stupid people. Those races, Bonner, they don't encourage this thing of dating outside. They don't, because they understand that in their minds, they are superior to you. But Lona acceptance, you cry for the acceptance of other races. You want to be accepted so badly by white people. You wonder, why are they being racist to me? That's the wrong question. You shouldn't wonder why they're being racist. You shouldn't care if they're racist. Let them be racist. What you should be caring about is owning your own country, your own land, your own resources. You shouldn't care whether white people like you or not, whether they love you or not. Stop seeking the validation of these people, man. You guys are embarrassing us. Coming out here crying, oh, they're being racist. Bro, we don't care about racists. They can be as racist as they want. What we want is ownership and sovereignty in our own land. Then the racists are going to really run away. And those that want to stay are going to have to live under Black rule, Black leadership, and Black, hey, let me not say it, but you already know where I'm going with it. What Ibrahim Traore is doing, where Black people are calling the shots. Specifically a Black man calling the shots, because that's what you need. That military and militant leader. Right now, white people are trying to bring in foreign nationals to give them positions so they can be good little boys, good pets, good house Negroes. And they're doing the same thing to Black women in South Africa. Black South African women, they're being promoted, they're, propping them up, giving them positions, right? Giving them bursaries, scholarships, creating laws to benefit specifically Black South African. Why? Because Black South African women are coons. They are sellouts. They are sellouts. Remember, hey, let me not get too deep into that, but they are sellouts. And then you'll see a Black woman go back and talk down on Black men, like, why can't you guys do what we're doing? We're buying property, we're doing this, that, and the third. We've got degrees, we're educated. You guys are puppets of the neocolonialist system. Nobody's threatened by Black South African women, bro. Trust me. We see what's going on and we understand very well that they're being played as pawns. They're being used as pawns. Why? Because they're compliant with the status quo. I'm not saying all of them. Of course, there are Black South African women that have their own voices and that are activists and that are fighting against the status quo, which we love and appreciate, and we applaud them. But a lot of what's happening with this neo-colonialist agenda is that they're using foreign nationals and Black women to be the new house Negroes. That's the focus. Those are the people that are being promoted. Those are the people in the boardrooms. Those are the people that the system is rewarding because they're trying to remove all forms of masculinity, because the true threat of a revolution comes from the men. Why? Because for you to stage a coup d'etat, you need the threat of violence or the possibility of violence. You need well-trained, disciplined, militant men that can get the job done, not these fruity, soft black men that we're seeing in today's society. And the reason the men are like that is by design. They're being programmed through media, through the internet, through social media to be soft. They can't use a gun. They can't fight. These guys work out for aesthetics. Imagine. You see these guys with entire Instagram accounts. They're working out for aesthetics, not to go to war, not to fight and defend the land and to get the minerals back. No, to look good in front of the mirror. Nonsense. Guys are painting their fingernails. You're embarrassing. You guys can't. We can't go to war with you guys. Let's soft. We cannot go to war with you guys. When you're in Joburg, you hear black guys, it's like part of Tsotsital now, the greeting. AMG Dojo fit. Get soft. Get soft. Oh, soft. Oh, soft. Trying to imply he's living soft. Guys, if you're a black man and you're living soft, we shouldn't be living soft right now. Now's the time for us to be, when they shut down the MK, the old one, which was the military wing of the ANC, because at that point, at least we had some leaders like Chris Hani that understood that violence is the answer. Unfortunately, women don't want to hear this because they know when we start talking about violence, they must leave the room because they can't get involved in that. But that's how the world runs today. The world is about dominating your opponent and being able to defend yourself if your opponent wants to come and dominate you. Everything about life in society is about territory. That is life. Life is that jungle. And just because men have created these aircon buildings and made people feel as if we're civilized. We're not civilized at all. We're still animalistic, down to our core. Everything about a human being is driven by the instinct to survive and the instinct to dominate other people. Just simple. No matter how much you act like we're not civilized. Human beings are not. So never make that mistake to think human beings are civilized. They're not. The principles that ran the world in yesteryears are still the ones that run the world today. The only difference is that the infrastructure is more sophisticated. But the people themselves, even if they might be more sophisticated in the skills, their instincts still make them nothing more than animals. Intelligent animals. So this thing of we've evolved, we have not evolved, bro. Don't you? There are still wars going on in the world today because that is the order of the day. That is life, guys. Understand that those are the rules of the jungle. So all of these isms that are being introduced to specifically weaken the population of people, to stop insurrection, to stop them from rebelling, to stop revolutions. So they pay you to sell out. They pay you to be a house Negro. They give you a fancy title, give you a nice car, house, European clothing, European car, make you feel important, give you a title and position. And what happens? You become passive. You no longer want to fight for the right thing. That's how they kill you. That's how they kill our revolutionaries today. Before, they would do it through assassinations. Like when they killed Chris Hani, for me, that was, my heart broke. Because that was a person that was serious about a violent revolution. Not this nonsense about Codesa and peaceful revolution. There's no peaceful revolution in Yamasepa. We don't own our country today because of that nonsense. And then the deal that Mandela had to make with the apartheid government was that he was going to shut down MK. And they shut down MK. And MK was our only hope at having our own country back. All the military training stopped. So today there's no conscription. Young black South African men have no military training. They can't go to war. You're just a guys, conscription it should be mandatory for you to go to the military as a black South African man. And we should be doing it underground. Because Afrikaans people, white people, still have underground militaries, in case you didn't know. And private security for white people is a front for military or militia or military operations and training, teaching their own people how to shoot, how to be competent in warfare and violence. So I don't want to hear women coming here talking about, oh, we want peace. I'm not peace, you're next in this world. There's no peace. The only way you obtain peace is when people are scared of you. That means you must be violent enough or threatening enough to where people will leave you alone. That's how you get peace. You don't get peace because we sat down around a boardroom in an air-conditioned room and decided to all agree to share. No, that's not how human beings are. Human beings are greedy by nature. And the survival instinct is what dictates the decisions that they take at the end of the day. So there's no getting along and let's all, no, that's not how life works. It's naive to think this way. Hence why all of these isms are being funded and propagated in your countries to create misdirection so that you don't fully understand how life actually works. I'm sorry to tell you, if you believe in all of these isms, you don't actually understand how life works. Or feminism and this, that, and that. They're creating narratives to deceive you guys and make you antagonize the people you should be coming together with to fight for your revolution so that you guys can actually have ownership of your land and minerals. All these isms, nonsense, so fair, and it's being pushed on social media the most. Hence why I said, who you follow, stop following these celebrities, stop following these influencers because they are funded. These people are sponsored. Don't you understand? As long as white corporations are sponsoring a person, that person is compromised. He will push the agenda of the elitist, of the ruling class, of white monopoly capital. That's what he will be there to do. Hence why it matters where you get your money, where you earn your money, where you get your funding, what you do for a job and where that money comes from. Because you could have blood on your hands if you don't assess your life.
High Court in Pretoria today to challenge the Employment Equity Amendment Act, arguing that it gives the Labour Minister unchecked powers to impose quotas on companies. The second largest partner in the Government of National Unity has launched a constitutional challenge to Section 15A of the Act, which allows the minister to set equity targets across 18 economic sectors. The party maintains that these are quotas and harm the economy and affects job creation. Let's talk about it with the DA's Federal Council Chair, Helen Zille. Helen, good morning. Welcome to the program as always. Just set out briefly and in the main why you're going to court today.
Morning, Iman. Well, you said it very clearly and summed it up well. What we have here is a draconian tightening of the employment equity laws to give almost totalitarian powers to the minister to set targets backed by huge fines and the risk of criminal prosecution for firms that employ more than 50 people who don't meet those standards. Now, if you want an instant job killer, it is a law like that. And it's also unconstitutional. Section 9 of the Constitution is the Equality Clause, and Section 9.2 of the Constitution allows a measure of fair discrimination to address the injustices of the past. And that we accept, completely we accept that. But the measures have to still meet the...
Guys, you got to pay close attention to how Helen Zille words things. She says we accept redress. And then she says, but. She didn't say we are proponents of it, we support it, we believe in it. She said we accept it. And then, but, which means she does not accept it. Even to accept is very weak because you didn't say you fully support, you accept. And then you want to now further explain how you now don't accept it. Listen very closely to how she's speaking as if the redress that she just said she accepts is some form of exploitation. Or listen, and I'm not saying that I support anything the ANC does. I'm just trying to show you how there's a stage in front of us with these puppets that are controlled by the same master that are playing out a scene. It's all a show. right? Where they're playing and acting like there's contention and conflict and they're fighting for the no, they're all on the same team. This is what neocolonialism does. They put on a show. They've got political actors. One plays the pro, one plays the con, one plays the blue team, the other plays on the red team. Ultimately, they're all pushing the same neocolonialist agenda. But they have to put on the show as if there's contention and debate and disagreement. But when you listen to Helen Zille, you can clearly hear that she has a problem with redress, that she's a proponent of neocolonialism. She doesn't have any regret of what happened in the past. I don't hear any policies from the DA in terms of how they're actually going to address these things and redress and all these different things. That's not their agenda. Their agenda is to constantly criticize the ANC, to show people how bad the ANC is. But they're not showing you or telling you exactly how they're going to do things differently. They're just telling you all the bad things about Black leadership. When they say ANC, they mean Black people.
The benchmark of fairness, and it is the onus.
I'm going to try to remain calm, because anytime I hear white people talk about fairness, it drives me up the wall, because it's so rich. It's so hypocritical for them to want to lecture the world about fairness. What would they know about fairness? Everything they have and have obtained was through unfairness. You can't come and steal people's resources and land and then continue to do so by implanting democracy. Guys, democracy is there to protect neocolonialism. After these guys loot, rape, steal, and steal from you, they install democracy. And democracy makes it impossible for you to actually get change in your country and in the lives of the indigenous people.
On the people who set the discrimination to determine that the discrimination is fair. And we say that this amendment act really does not meet that bar at all.
Yeah.
Because what it does...
She said to make sure the discrimination is fair. In other words, she's telling you how she sees redress. She's agreeing. Why do you think so many white racists love the DA? Because the DA is singing from the same hymn book as them. They agree on the same things, that redress is a form of discrimination, that the race, so-called race-based laws are a form of reverse apartheid, which is insanity. It is insanity to think like this. Because what they're saying is we should continue on with the current status quo, where white people have all the advantage that they gained through a crime against humanity. No repentance whatsoever. And when you try to fix the thing, they say this is a form of discrimination. So now they're painting themselves as victims, which is narcissism on steroids. This is as narcissistic as you can get, to do something wrong. And then when we try to correct the matter, you play the victim. In other words, you are not regretful. In fact, you're not even acknowledging that what you did was wrong. Because as soon as people try to fix the thing you did, you now want to play the victim card and make it seem as if the same thing you did to those people is what they're now doing to you. It's like somebody stealing something from you, and then you go to the police and the police find the thief. All right, they find you and say, hey man, you have to return this. And then you cry to the same police and say, hey, you guys are stealing this thing from me. It's mine now. Isn't that insanity? You gotta hey guys.
Is it says to every company in each of the 18 sectors that they have to meet a sectoral target, not an individual firm's target, a sectoral target set by the minister, on pain of being fined 10% of their turnover. Now, for almost all companies, being fined 10% of their turnover puts them out of business.
Right.
That's immediate job losses. And who is going to invest?
I have a theory. And my theory is that, like I told you, the ANC and the DA are playing opposite sides, but really they are supported by the same master. And what they're trying to do, the agenda here, is to deliberately execute redress badly so that the DA can, or white capital can show us stupid black people that redress doesn't work and that we need to continue on with the status quo as it is under white leadership and under white rule so that we can create jobs. So the unemployment crisis that is deliberately being created is being created to show the weakness in black leadership, to show that redress doesn't work, because tomorrow, that's what the history books are going to say, that the ANC tried redress, that they tried to make race-based laws, and life got worse, the economy got worse, unemployment increased. Why? Because then that justifies why we need a white government, white leadership, and it's effectively why we need apartheid back. Because black leadership were given a chance for 30 plus years and they couldn't get it done. That's ultimately what the agenda is here, guys. You got these two actors on stage that are pushing the same neo-colonialist agenda, but acting like they're on different sides and acting like they're having a conflict. And ANC is deliberately executing redress in a bad way with bad leadership, or the lack of leadership, so that the DA can come in and save the day and show that redress doesn't work. That's what they're going to conclude. That all of these race-based laws and what is going to chase away foreign investors and the economy is going to crash. Therefore, we need the support of foreign aid and foreign investors so that we can have a strong economy and good jobs. And that way, the status quo remains and white people's victory from the colonial eras is preserved. That's the agenda here.
In a country where the minister can tell you what your quotas are and then make sure you are punished severely for not reaching them and sending you into bankruptcy.
So the
job-destroying act.
So the ministry is hit back and
guys, trust me, all of this is happening. The bad execution of redress is part of the plan, because the bad execution of redress under black leadership justifies the claims from white people that they're being discriminated against and that the discrimination is actually collapsing the economy and chasing out foreign investors. This strategy on the chessboard is a form of a soft sanction. It's a soft sanctioning where they're using black leadership, they're using the ANC to discredit black leadership and to show that fighting for a revolution is only going to lead to a terrible economy. But that's not true, because look at Burkina Faso. They've got their own currency that's against actual gold. It's not just printing paper money like they've done in America. Fake money that's not based on any minerals. Debt money. Okay? Pay close. This is a game of chess. Every move matters. You must pay close attention to what people are saying. Listen to the wording. Helen Zille is here to be the savior to black people, to save them from black incompetence, because black people tried to lead and they couldn't. Hence why the ANC, with all their old bullies, they will not go away and step aside for the young people to take over. Why? Because the white capital monopoly does not want that. They don't want black young people coming in with fresh ideas. Hence why you've heard of assassination attempts on people like Sanawo Tambo, people that are the future of black South Africa. They don't want those types of people to see the light of day. They don't want you to listen to somebody like me. They don't want you to hear this thing. YouTube is going to do everything they can to suppress these types of videos and this type of content. But either way, I'm going to go across multiple platforms. They will not be able to stop me. And I'll make sure that you hear this, because you, young man, you black young man, you are the change that the country needs.
and said that these aren't quotas, that quotas are something else. And it isn't quotas because what you are given the right to do in this particular setting is to justify, in cases where you haven't been able to meet these targets, why you haven't been able to do so. So in other words, saying that there is a flexibility. How does that match up with what you've described as draconian and totalitarian?
Well, firstly, setting a target backed by massive penalties is not.
The irony of white people accusing you of doing this very thing that they're doing themselves. To say that this is draconian and authoritarian, what is neocolonialism? Guys, you cannot still be falling for this, man. Aman, you cannot be this naive that you're still falling for this nonsense. It's one thing.
It's no longer a target, it's a quota. And if you don't meet that target, and if you're threatened, for example, with losing 10% of your turnover or being criminally prosecuted, the onus is on you to prove why you haven't done that. The onus is on you. The time, the effort, the money. People are going to say, well, I've got capital to invest. I've got a good idea to form a business, but I'm not going to do it in South Africa. I'm going to do it in all the places in the world that are actually making it easier for me.
Again, notice how she says, people are going to say we don't want to invest. No, your white rulers, the white rulers are going to say we don't want to invest. And it's not that they're going to actually run away. What they're doing is they're threatening to crash the economy with soft quotas. So when they pull back, or when you hear talks of them saying, we're scared, we want to pull away, and then they start manipulating the rand to make it fall, is to show, hey, if we don't make these people happy, the economy and the currency completely collapses and people starve and die. It's all orchestrated. These are not real consequences. This is manipulation. They're trying to threaten you and show you that if you keep fighting for revolution, if the population keeps becoming conscientized, we're going to replace you with foreigners and we're going to pull out to weaken the currency. We're going to force more unemployment so that it skyrockets, get it up to 60%, 70%. Make sure that the only people that are working are the clever blacks, the compliant neo-colonialist puppets. Those will be the only people that are working. Everybody else is going to be starving and dying. So my question to you is, our unemployment is the highest in the world. At which point will you guys say, man, fuck it, we got nothing to lose. Let's just go in and get our revolution. Open up your own MK, the old one. I'm not talking about a political party, the actual one, which is the military wing. Open these things up by yourselves in your own communities. We need a violent revolution in South Africa, not a peaceful one. Peaceful ones don't work. If you want to get back your land and minerals, it has to be a violent one. That's why they've got a military base in an American military base in Botswana. They are ready to strike. Private security in South Africa that protects whiteness and white people, they are ready to strike. And they outnumber the SAPS and the South African military. Ernest Roots exposed this stupidly. He gave that intel, which means that civilian South African black men have to take up arms and have to take the front lines, not to protest, not the picket lines, the front lines to fight and die for the land.
Me to invest, not more difficult.
What's your proof for that?
Well, firstly, it's completely standard that businesses invest where they can get return on investment with least government interference.
Right, but let's talk about it in South Africa. Sorry, Helen, just to show.
That is the definition of neocolonialism. They say, oh, businesses invest. What they mean is white capital. What they mean is the white ruling class that's actually running the country remotely. Your colonizer is running the country remotely. That's what they mean when they say big business and businesses. They're talking about your colonizer who's running your country remotely. And she's trying to act like, oh, this is common knowledge. Do you see the propaganda? Guys, you don't understand how demonic this woman is. I wish you guys could fully grasp the level of deception in this woman and what she's trying to push and advocate for. She's been put here, planted here to be an advocate for neocolonialism.
Sharpen the question, right? Because this applies to us. So where's that happened to us? What's the evidence for that? That it's been, for all the reasons that you say, a huge turnoff for investment in South Africa. What facts do we have to back that up?
There have been several studies that have been done, and you can go and Google them, in which businesses have been asked why they aren't investing. And number one reason was always...
Dude, that's not a true... To ask the colonizer, why are you not investing? And she's like, oh, studies have been... You see how they manipulate statistics and facts and media to support their agenda and their propaganda and to make it seem like it's legit and say, hey, just go Google it. That's why Google is there, guys, right? To misrepresent the truth and make you believe that this is statistical or factual. So when she says, oh, just go Google it and businesses were asked, who are these businesses? Who are these people? You're talking about the colonizers who have now rebranded themselves as big business, there to try to invest in the country to create jobs. In other words, to keep you as slaves. Guys, wake up! Wake up, man. Yes.
Always electricity insecurity. And the second most common reason was the race laws and the government's capacity to impose huge bureaucratic obstacles in terms of race laws before companies, and they're not going to invest in those circumstances. So, for example, the most recent example and very high profile one is the mining industry. Nobody can prospect in South Africa, no one can open a mine, no one can invest unless they give away a third of their investment to BEE partners. And instead of many, many people investing during the commodities boom, there was none, because people said, I'm not going to do this. I mean, another very good example.
All orchestrated, it's all a stage, it's all a play. They're all acting out a script to try to show that these are proven, quote unquote, facts that no one wanted to invest. So your colonizer didn't want to invest to prove a point that if you don't stop with this redress, if you don't stop with these revolutionary ideas, we're going to keep hitting you with these soft sanctions.
Good example is Starlink. We haven't got Starlink because of these kinds of laws. And the critical thing is that the role of government, especially when you've got the highest recorded unemployment rate in the world, the role of government is to make it easier to invest, not more difficult to invest.
Yeah, but for every Starlink...
That's literally neocolonialism. The role of the government is to be a puppet for white capital. She's literally defining it for you guys.
You have an Amazon. I mean, Amazon's invested in South Africa. It hasn't been a turnover for all businesses. And that's why I wanted to go into the detail of actual investment, where people said we wanted to put in X billion dollars in South Africa, but we decided not to because of this particular reason. But there's another aspect to all of this, Helen, and this is the reality of where South Africa sits. Do you accept that racial inequality in hiring is still a structural problem in South Africa, or do you believe we've moved past that? Especially when you look at the numbers, white people occupy 7% of the population, 66% of top-level management posts in the private sector. There's the 2023-24 Employment Equity Report. And again, I know you know all of this. Top management, white individuals holding 62%. Of those posts, African individuals, who are 80% of the economically active population, occupying only 17% of those roles. And without enforceable targets, many private sector companies have simply refused to transform on purpose. So that's why this law now, my understanding is from what the ministry is saying, has to be tightened to hold people's feet to the fire.
Well, the first point is, where did Amazon invest? They invested in the Western Cape. They invested in the Western Cape because we do our best to remove obstacles for investment. That is why the Western Cape has far lower unemployment rate than any other province in the country, because we make it our business to remove obstacles to investment, to remove bureaucratic hurdles, to take away this racial craziness of race identification.
Listen to what she's telling you.
We have a race classification act.
Listen to what she's saying.
Because now every employee has to get a form, you fill it in, and you have to note what your race is. Now,
Guys, essentially, this woman is here to represent white capital, white businesses. That's who she represents. She does not represent black people. And this thing of, oh, white people and big business are here to provide a solution to unemployment is nonsense. What they mean is, we're here to make you guys, to continue to make you guys our slaves. It's just that now you will be better paid so that you can take care of yourself. But still, who sits at the top? Who controls the means of production? Who runs your country? So we should just be happy with the scraps, with the crumbs that fall from the master's table, just so we can say, hey, at least we're employed. Fuck no.